Hello everybody, welcome to another comic debrief. I'm backseat driver 5280. Just wanted to thank you for stopping by. Feel free to like and subscribe, and if you want to check out more of these, then please find the links in the description below. Without further ado, let's get to it. Kicking it off with admin, publication dates were 9 August 2017 through 14 November 2018. Creators, writer was Tom King. The artist, colorist, and inker was Mitch Gerads. Letterer was Clayton Cowles, and editor was James S. Rich. The run length was 12 issues, and the cover price was $3.99, with the exception of the director's cut of issue number 1 being $5.99. Now to open things up a little bit more with key bits, covering key issues and variant covers. So there are only 3 keys in this run, and I use the term key loosely. The first one is just the first issue because it is a premiere issue for the series, the premiere issue for the series. And supposedly this series will be incorporated into the New Gods movie that is supposed to come out from DC eventually. Issue number 7 is the first appearance of Jacob Free, the son of Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, and the grandson of Highfather. And then finally, issue 11 is the death of Darkseid. Next, we're going to get into variant covers. For issue 1, cover A was done by Nick Darrington, cover B by Mitch Gerads, and then the second, third, and fourth print were all done by Mitch Gerads as well. The director's cut cover was done by Nick Darrington. Issue 2, cover A, Nick Darrington, cover B, Mitch Gerads. Then the second and third print were both done by Nick Darrington. Issue 3, cover A, was done by Nick Darrington, cover B by Mitch Gerads, second print by Nick Darrington. Issue 4, cover A, Nick Darrington, cover B, Mitch Gerads, and second print, Nick Darrington. Issue 5, cover A, Nick Darrington, cover B, Mitch Gerads, and second print, once again, Nick Darrington. For the rest of the series, cover A was done by Nick Darrington, and cover B was done by Mitch Gerads. So I'll simply put them up on the screen and tell you whether it's cover A or cover B. For issue 6, here's cover A and cover B. Issue 7, cover A and cover B. Issue 8, cover A, cover B. Issue 9, cover A, cover B. Issue 10, cover A, cover B. Issue 11, cover A, cover B. And finally, issue 12, cover A, and cover B. So the story opens with Mr. Miracle on the floor of his bathroom having slit his wrists. Darkness, death, and suicide and depression are themes that carry throughout the book, all 12 issues. And the depression itself seems to be represented by panels simply stating Darkseid is. People around Scott don't really know how to act after finding out that he tried to kill himself. He goes onto a talk show where he kind of tries to play it off as one of his escape tricks. And his foster family, if you will, his brother Orion, who was swapped with him at birth, tries to quote-unquote teach him how to be strong, because he sees his attempt at suicide as a weakness. This pisses off his wife, Big Barda, to no end, and she scares Orion away. But shortly thereafter, they are both called to New Genesis to fight in a war as Scott's father, the Highfather, has been murdered by Darkseid. They go to battle, they lead armies for New Genesis in this war of good and evil. But in the midst of it all, his Scott's brother Orion calls them back to New Genesis and gives them orders to kill the woman who raised them both, Granny Goodness. She is one of Darkseid's greatest generals, and she is not a good person. She tortures the children that she raises throughout their whole lives, believing that it makes them strong, and Scott and Barda were no exception. When they get there, they act as if they're trying to treat with her, trying to create a peace, but in the middle of the night, they sneak into her tent in order to kill her, in order to assassinate her. She stuns Big Barda, and while she's out, Granny Goodness tells Scott that Granny Goodness was the spy that Highfather had in Darkseid's ranks, that she was the one who warned them, that she had always loved them and cared for them. She tells him that Orion had ordered her to murder Scott and Big Barda, that it was an intended suicide mission for them. Barda awakens and bashes in Granny Goodness's head, and they return to New Genesis to face Orion. They don't speak about it, though, and they simply kind of go on as if nothing happened. However, a little later on, Orion believes that Scott has betrayed New Genesis. He wants to either execute him or put him on trial. And luckily for Scott, since he is a new god, he is entitled to choose which he gets. He chooses a trial, but just like everything else, he's fairly numb to it. He doesn't seem to care about anything. The depression is still weighing on him. And it's all just kind of meaningless to him. So when asked where he wants the trial to be held, since that is also his right to choose, he decides he wants it to be in his condo, in their living room. Orion arrives and asks him a multitude of questions, wanting to know what Mr. Miracle believes to be the truth. Whether or not Darkseid is evil, essentially, whether or not the anti-life equation is to be a weapon used against New Genesis and other people and other living beings, whether or not he accused Orion of treason, and finally whether or not he has done things to betray New Genesis. Scott essentially affirms what Orion believes, and Orion determines that he must execute Scott for treason. Initially, as with anything else in this story, Scott doesn't really seem to care. He basically just says okay, and he'll be there in a few days. Barda finally starts to kind of push him to fight back, to live, to do something with what they have. And at first, Scott's not having it. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore. He just wants to go. But one day as they're driving home from a performance, they start talking about their condo and how Barda wants to redo it, to remodel it, and an additional bedroom comes up. And she admits to Scott that she's pregnant. And that's what it takes to convince Scott that he wants to stay. He doesn't want to go to New Genesis. He doesn't want to die. He wants to fight, and he wants to live. So they go to New Genesis to face Orion, but when they show up, they find him dead at his throne. It turns out that Darkseid, or one of his agents, has assassinated Orion on New Genesis, and so they go back to war. The war goes on for some time, and eventually Barda gives birth. They start to raise their child, and they want to be done with the war. They treat with Kalibak, one of Darkseid's generals, among some others, and they determine that there is only one way to end the war, and that is by giving Darkseid their child. It takes Scott some time to make the decision, but as High Father, it is up to him. He decides that the only way for everything to end is to agree to Darkseid's terms and to bring their son to Apocalypse. But Mr. Miracle, being Mr. Miracle, he's always got an escape. He always has a trick up his sleeve. And so he takes Barda and the child, and they go to Apocalypse. Darkseid yields his access to utilize the anti-life equation, and they hand him their son. However, they've concealed weapons, one that they believe will take down Darkseid, and a plan B. Of course, the first weapon doesn't do it. Nothing like that can take down a god like Darkseid. But luckily, Scott brought a special blade that would do the trick. And so they are able to kill Darkseid and take their son home. But through all of this, Metron comes to them and acts as if this has all been another escape routine, and tells him that he has succeeded, essentially. Scott and Barda go back to more or less normal life. He is High Father and she is his queen, and they are about to have another baby. This all kind of ends in a happily ever after sort of idea, even though Scott's still seeing ghosts from his past. His friends, his father, his brother, and Darkseid as well. But he finally has something that he is willing to fight for, and all this is not enough to weigh him down. Darkseid is, but so are they. Finally, we'll wrap it up with the critiques. For art, I'm going to give this a myth. It was good, but it was nothing mind-blowing in my opinion. Again, I'm no artist or art expert or anything anywhere near that, but just my opinion. The story, I am going to give a 1 above. I think that it has some important messages, and but it's not quite to the level that I would like, I guess, if that makes sense. For the writing, the storytelling, I thought that the writing and the art worked together well, but I feel like this could have been done better. There was some stuff that just seemed excessive. Not exposition or anything like that, really, but just stuff that really didn't need to be there. Finally, would I read it again? Yes. Would I buy it again? No. But I might try and find the first prints of each issue. I currently have the second prints of the first half of the series, so we'll see. Thank you for checking out another comic debrief. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. I'll leave a link to the playlist with the other debriefs in the description below. And until next time, have a good one.